Welcome to the Athena 40 podcast, Conversations with Women from the MENA region. This series is in partnership with NOMA Women Advancement Establishment, a United Arab Emirates-based organization founded on the vision of an equitable world for women. In this series, we are hosting exceptional women from the Middle East and North Africa. They are thought leaders, entrepreneurs, and policymakers. And I am your host, Elizabeth Filippouli, founder of Athena 40, an international platform connecting women leaders. Raha Moharrak, I'm so delighted to host you today. It is not every day that you get to talk to someone who has climbed 8 summits, among them including Mount Everest.
The pleasure is mine. Thank you so much for having me.
Where are you currently?
Honestly, it feels like I'm in limbo. Like everybody, I think this year, everyone feels like it's such a strange year. But physically, I'm in Dubai. So I usually split my time between Jeddah and Dubai because Jeddah is where my family and Dubai is where I live and work. So right now, I'm in Dubai.
Wonderful. Well, the idea around these podcasts is to explore the life, the dreams, the achievements of the fascinating ladies that we host. And so I would like to ask you to talk to us about your early formative years. What was it like growing up? What was Jeddah like? What was your family like? Was it a supportive, encouraging family? Did you have siblings? So kind of take us back then.
I'm so lucky. I still have such amazing parents. I mean, it's not easy having a child like me, let alone an adult like me. I've always been very different and I thought outside the box. So as a child, I'll tell you, my parents, I was always the oddball, the one that was, curious about things, maybe a little bit the naughty one. But I had an amazing upbringing. I have a brother and a sister older than me. And we had such a great chemistry together because we're all such strong personalities. So we ended up developing characters. But yeah, I grew up in Saudi, and I'm very lucky to have understanding, loving parents. I know it's not easy. I was not an easy child to raise. I wanted to do things my way. I wanted to dress the way I wanted. I wanted to do whatever I wanted. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's the type of stubbornness that does not leave a person. The type of independent way of thinking. I've always had that. So my poor parents had to deal with that as a child. But I'm very lucky. I had a beautiful upbringing, very lucky.
So was it something that triggered your adventurous nature? Because, I mean, this is something seriously adventurous, which I admire profoundly.
Thank you.
Very, very few people, I mean, many people perhaps dream of it, but very, very, very few would have the audacity to go for it. What was it that triggered? Was it a curiosity? So I would like to know that very moment when you realized that Raha, whatever age she was, had this very adventurous kid within her.
A lot of people ask, when did this start? And I can't answer because it never really started. It was always there. I always sensed this urge, this need to go out and explore from as early as I can remember. I always felt like whenever we were in the beach, I wanted to jump in the ocean. I wanted to climb all the trees. Do you know what I mean? It was always there. It wasn't something that suddenly came. It was an innate, deep need and desire to want to go and explore. And I think it's a character trait. I think like all traits, all genetic traits in humans, I think some people like me have a gene and have like a compass that pulls them towards these things. So long story short, I always felt that way. I always felt the sense of belonging to this world of adventurous nomads. It's very hard to explain because it was always there. I could always feel it.
So at school, were you like the other kids? Or because what I know is that sometimes, those children who are ever moving, full of energy, full of curiosity, sometimes the standard school practices do not sit well with them because they get bored. How were you at school?
Disastrous. Absolutely disastrous. I was a terrible student. I couldn't sit still. I had terrible handwriting. I got bored in class. I was very bad. I was a bad student. I admit it. I take full responsibility for how much of a bad student I was. I was constantly getting in trouble because I was bored. My mind didn't fit that same kind of, I couldn't fit there. I couldn't fit, the box that you needed to fit in. So I was a very bad student. I was never rude or anything like that, but I was naughty. Like I wanted to break the rules. I would rather be running outside playing sports than in class. So I gave my mom a hard time in school. I had horrible grades. I had really bad grades in school.
And what was your favorite sport at school?
So growing up, I liked to swim. I liked horseback riding. I used to dance ballet. I was very hyper. I was a hyper kid. I'm a hyper adult. I'm still like, sometimes I catch myself exerting myself. Like I get excited and I'm active the whole day. And then by 6 o'clock, it's total shutdown. But I think it's my personality. I always need to be on the go. I always need to explore. I need stimulus. My mind needs things to keep them going. I had a very, very hard time in the pandemic. I mean, everyone's having a hard time. It touched everybody, right? Like every single person has had an effect. But I think people like me even more, because my life completely was flipped on its head. I went from constantly being on the go, having a busy schedule, to completely like not knowing what's going to happen and complete like pause, which is really difficult for someone like me. It's really hard. So yeah,
I can imagine, of course.
Yeah, it was because most people, the things that change in their life was, for example, kids being at home, working from home, but they still had movement. They still had, do you know what I mean? Like they still had a schedule. Me, because of my job as a TV presenter, as a travel host, adventurer, everything just went, completely stopped. That was tough. That was hard to wrap my head around. I had a hard time with it.
You were always on the move. I mean, what you do professionally takes you from one place
everywhere
to another, outdoors all the time. So suddenly having to look yourself up, so to speak, I'm sure it was quite a shock.
It was really hard.
Taking you back a bit, when you graduated high school, what happened
barely
after that?
So I passed high school. Yay, I was really happy when I passed. I think nobody expected me to pass high school. I passed high school, went to university, excelled in university. I found my niche. I found my creative calling, because I was in the design world, and I've always been very creative and very, very much a creative thinker. So when I didn't have to do things that I'm bad at, like math, for example, me and math do not speak, I think. So I excelled. I was on the dean's list. I was a top student in university. I was a really good student in university, shockingly.
Which is impressive in the sense that you didn't like anything at all at school, high school.
Yeah, I mean, I liked the science classes because I liked science and the details. I like history, but the format.
Yes.
Sitting in class. But in university, we had studios, we had it was a wider range, a wider variety of stimulus, right? I had sports, I had meeting new people all the time, picking up new hobbies. So I felt less frustrated in university. So I excelled. Shockingly, my family was like, oh my God, she's actually an A student. I was on the dean's list. The year I was on the dean's list, my parents couldn't believe it. Imagine, I went from such a naughty, horrible student in school to dean's list. Big job.
That was because you were able to unleash your creativity. So
yeah, exactly. I found the space I could excel in.
Excellent. And then, how did mountain climb come?
Yeah, there's like a 360. Mountain climbing, it was a completely, it crashed into my life. So in essence, I think every single woman in the world reaches this crossroads in life. And this crossroads is different from every culture and every house and every society, right? This crossroads is societal expectations of what you should be as a woman and then your passion and your drive as a human, where you want to go. So I reached that a few years ago. My family and culture decided that it's time to settle down and find Prince Charming and all that, which is amazing, and I would love that one day. But I wasn't ready. It wasn't something like I wasn't ready to go down that path yet. So I wanted something different. I wanted something new. And I sought out, I went out and looked for something different and something new, and very randomly stumbled upon Kilimanjaro. And it was like right thing, right time kind of thing.
Working at the time, did you?
Yeah, I was working at the time, but my family was pressuring me in a way, in a big way, to come back from UAE to Saudi to settle down. And I wasn't ready. I wasn't ready to, throw in the towel and just be like, okay, now to get married. Like it didn't fit my mind. Do you know what I mean?
What was your job at the time, Raha?
Graphic designer. I worked as a graphic designer at an agency. I was working. I was building a career, but I just felt like I needed something that was mine. I don't know how to explain this, but I felt like I wanted something that was my own choice. So university and school were amazing, and I'm very grateful. But they were, again, societal expectations, right? Like you go through the notions of what to do. But in my case, I felt I wanted something that was mine. I don't know how to explain it better, but I felt like there was something more. I had something more to give. And yeah, I went after that crazy, crazy
How old
calling.
were you at the time?
So this was mid-20s, so 24, 25 when I started climbing. And that's where this whole journey started.
So how did you come across this idea of climbing up Kilimanjaro? Was it something that you watched on TV, a documentary? Was it an interview or a friend had
So
done?
my whole life, I've always felt like I wanted to live an adventurous life, right? This is what I dreamt of. I never really imagined I would actually do it, but it was what I dreamt of. Do you know what I mean? When you have these big, crazy dreams that you put in your mind and say, oh, that would be amazing one day. But I never actually imagined that I would pull it off, to be honest. So I overheard a girl. She was talking about climbing Kilimanjaro. She randomly mentioned it. I didn't know her well at the time, to be honest, but she said it, and I was like, this sounds interesting. What is this? And it's amazing how sometimes when something's meant for you, it will find you. And yeah, that's how it started. She was just like, mountaineering. This is fantastic. It will drive my parents nuts. Like, this is exactly what I need to drive them crazy.
How did you prepare? I mean, you overhear that. It definitely, clearly planted the seed in your mind and your heart.
Yeah.
And you thought, okay, no one is going to change my mind here. I'm going for it. What was the next day? What happened, on day one? And how long did it take you to prepare and actually do it?
So I hate to admit it, but it's the truth. With Kilimanjaro, I don't have preparation. I didn't have preparation. I just, picked up and went. It was really bad. I don't advise anyone to do this. Go through the right channels, make sure that you train. I had no idea. Absolutely no idea. I was like, okay, mountaineering, let's go. That's not the best way to do it. But I learned the hard way. I really learned the hard way. How to train myself, what not to do, the mistakes. I taught myself from zero. And when I mean I taught myself, I really didn't have any. In the beginning of my career, I had no one. No one taught me anything. I just decided to teach myself.
Did you join a team?
Of course, all mountaineering companies will put you in a team. They will put you in a team because that's the safest way to go up. You have a guide, and that's how you learn. So yeah, I kind of taught myself, and of course I learned from the best. I had all ears, all eyes open, right? Like to keep an eye out to learn. And I was such a sponge. I wanted to learn everything.
And what were the first things that impressed you? There is quite some distance between a decision, a dream, a desire, and the actual journey, which is how many days?
For Kili or for Everest? Because it was completely different.
Yeah, give us the comparison. Talk to us about both.
Okay, so comparison Kilimanjaro, it's just like I had no idea. I just went, which is for everyone listening, do not do that. If you decide to start a mountaineering career, message me on social media. I'll help you. I'll give you my tips. I learned the hard way, right? But by the time I decided to do Everest, I was really invested and I really put my time. It took me like a proper year to train for Everest, like a proper full on training, a mountaineering school, rescue training, emergency. Like I really threw myself into it completely.
Which you did where? In Saudi Arabia or?
No, all over. I went to the US to train. I went to Antarctica to train. I went to Argentina. So I followed where I could go for training. I followed the best mountains for the season. And yeah, I threw myself into it to get myself ready and prepared. It was all I thought about. I was kind of like an obsession. Everything stopped. I was just crazy about mountains.
I can't help but wonder, what did your family say? And I mean, clearly it was super expensive.
Oh my God.
Did your parents support it financially?
So in the beginning, the first couple of mountains were not as expensive. The first couple of mountains were okay. The first couple of mountains were not super expensive. But I went broke halfway through for sure. I went broke because it's an expensive sport. So yeah, I went completely broke halfway through. And then that's when my family luckily stepped in and helped and really, really saved me. My mom and my dad were amazing support. And this was, for those listening, this was pre-evolution in Saudi, right? So it wasn't easy for women to go up and do sports like how I did, right? It wasn't as supportive as now. Now it's much more easier because it's become much more acceptable and celebrated. But back then when I started off, no one wanted to come close to crazy Saudi woman that wants to climb mountains. So yeah, in the beginning it was quite difficult, but I eventually got the support of my family. And yeah, I was very, very lucky that I managed to do the climbs I wanted. Even before it was cool and acceptable. I still can't believe that I managed to squeeze them all in such a short period of time.
What year was it? 2013?
But yeah, end of 2013. And it took around four years or so. So I was very lucky.
It took 4 years to prepare.
No, it took 1 year to prepare for Everest.
What was it that took 4 years?
All the 7 summits. I think it took around 4 years or so. I think so.
I see.
Can't remember. I was very lucky that I managed to finish the 7 summits as early as I did.
I want to focus a bit on that journey, on that adventure, which is a unique adventure. You know, when you climb up Mount Everest, must have been really, really tough. I mean, we just hear it from you with all your passion, enthusiasm, and all the excitement, which is so profound. On the other hand, I would like us to visit you when you were trying to climb and go up there, and the difficulties and the hardship. You learned a lot, right, Raha?
Yeah, so it's an amazing point that you point out, because now I look back and I'm smiling and I'm laughing, but it wasn't always smiles and laughs. It was not always like this. I'm very grateful for it, but it was not easy. It was really tough. Everything was hard, from training to financing it, to getting the visas, to going on the mountain for 2 months, without your family for the duration of time, the heavy load you carry on your back. It wasn't easy. None of it was easy, but it taught me so much about myself. Like, it's true what they say, that it's not the mountain you climb, but it's not the mountain that you conquer, it's yourself. I think Edmund Hillary said this, and I truly, truly believe in that, because you find out more about yourself and your capabilities when you're in these situations, unlike almost anything else. It teaches you so much about yourself, and you discover a lot that if you didn't go out of the box and if you didn't push yourself outside your comfort zone, as corny as that is, you wouldn't know who you are. You wouldn't be able to discover this essence of who you are.
Would you like to give us an example? So the Raha that went up and the Raha that came down, What was the biggest difference?
You believe and you realize how powerful you are, how incredibly powerful you are after you've achieved something that most people told you cannot do. You realize that the number one critic that you need to convince is yourself. The first person that you need to convince is yourself. And everything else just falls away. You need to first believe it. I know it's corny, but you need to first believe that you can do it, because the first person that you are need to be honest with is yourself. So a lot of people don't even have that confidence to actually say this is my dream. And after years and years of being in the public eye and having a reputation as being an adventurer or a rule breaker or whatever, a lot of women come up to me and tell me their stories. I've found a very, very unique and similar thing that ties all these women together. And they have all different stories, but they all say the same thing. They say that they're afraid. They are afraid of, and then fill in the blank. It's always like this. I want to be X, okay, whatever the job is, but I'm afraid of. And most of the time, it's themselves. It's, what people say, or my family, or failure. Do you know what I mean? It's most of the time it's fear out of something that stops them from getting to where they want. So the thing I learned the most is that we are our own worst critics. And after that, if you truly have the strength and conviction to tell yourself that you are able to do it, then that's half the battle.
When someone, Raha, achieves something so big, which also receives a lot of publicity, dynamic in their relationships and friendships sometimes can change. And I wonder whether your friendships or some of your friendships changed after you arrived back home. Were people looking at you differently? Did you, of course, you must have made new friends, but did you feel that you also lost friends?
I'm very, very lucky to say that no, I didn't lose any friends. I think the people who knew me the best and knew me well were absolutely not surprised. They weren't surprised that this is what I ended up doing at all. Because it was, from what they tell me, it was expected that I would do something crazy like that, like decide to go climb mountains, for example. So the people that know me really well were not surprised, and they are my family and friends till this day. So I'm very lucky. I haven't lost any of my dear friends. I've gained a lot of friends. But I will mention that as a woman, if you have a success story, or if you're good at something, or if you're known for something, I've noticed that a lot of people have, especially men, have a prejudice or preconceived notion of you. They assume that they assume weird things about you. And I've had people say, after meeting you, I found out that, whatever. They have wrong assumptions of me, which I find fascinating. But no, I'm the same. If you ask my friends and family, they'll tell you I haven't changed.
I would say that you're someone who breaks glass ceilings, but in your case, there are no ceilings, glass anytime. But I'm impressed to hear that people, and I know, of course, that people find it convenient to label and to stereotype. For someone like you, how do you handle it now? I mean, when you hear something which is so silly, so superficial, and it very much comes under this label of the cliche approach.
So much. I get this a lot. I always tell people that you're being disingenuous, or you're being unfair to someone when you prejudge them, but you're also showing the true colors of who you are, because we judge people with how we see ourselves. So I always tell people to not have a prejudice or a preconceived notion of anybody. And a lot of times people come up to me and say that, you know what, we did not expect your personality to be this way. And when I ask them, it's genuinely prejudgment. Oh, we thought you would be this or that, or any silly and unjust judgments. And also I get this a lot. A lot of people say that, oh, don't be so intimidating. You intimidate men. And I hate when people say that, because the correct way of saying this sentence is, men get intimidated by me. or by strong women, they get intimidated. It doesn't mean that we are intimidating, but that's what their perception is. They get intimidated. It doesn't mean that the person is intimidating. So this is also something that I always tell women. I'm like, don't let people make you feel inferior for your superiority or for your passion or for where you got yourself in life. Do you know what I mean?
Yes, I do, absolutely. And I hear you. I very much like the approach that it's not, powerful, strong, educated, ambitious women who intimidate men or other people. It's the other person on the other side.
Exactly. Who gets this? Everything's perception. So they perceive you as intimidating. It does not necessarily mean that you are intimidating.
Yeah, perhaps they feel inferior. So this is something
Exactly.
that they need to resolve with themselves.
Exactly. But a lot of people judge women that way. They judge her for being intimidating, when in reality, she isn't. Imagine if she was a man, she wouldn't be labeled as intimidating. She would be labeled as successful. She would be labeled as X, Y, and Z. But because society and culture and mentalities tend to label strong women as intimidating, so automatically they assume she's intimidating or bossy or whatever, which is not fair, which is absolutely not fair.
And this is something that happens the world over
Everywhere. It happens everywhere.
Exactly. And when a man, for example, is determined, oh, he's such a great manager, he's
determined, he's
And then when a woman acts the same, oh, she's bossy, she's this and that. So that stereotyping is something that happens everywhere. But you mentioned before, and I would like to hear your thoughts here as to the evolution around women in Saudi Arabia. Give us the picture of the last few years. What has been happening that is different?
For sure, there's been a huge shift and a huge evolution in women in Saudi Arabia, for sure. It's our era. Right now is women's era. And I think a lot of men are afraid. It's like now most of the jobs are going to women and it's competitive market. So, yeah, poor guys. A lot has changed. We're in the forefront now. We're for sure more prevalent in different sectors and different hierarchies, and more families are becoming matriarchs in terms of family business. There's a clear shift and clear change, and I can see it even in the way people treat me. I can see it even in how people perceive me and how I get invited more and more to schools, how I get celebrated and mentioned. And do you know what I mean? Like, there's a lot of nuances that are proving to me that it is our era. It's women's era in Saudi Arabia.
Tell us more about your current TV show.
So unfortunately, because of COVID, it got postponed for now. But
but the concept, tell us
about the concept. I hosted a TV show that is about Saudi Arabia. So basically all of the amazing historic and adventure spots in Saudi. I hosted a show and I went around. It was the first time a woman goes around Saudi Arabia doing everything from like mountain climbing, horseback riding, scuba diving. I was doing everything. So it was such an honor, and it is aired till now in one of the biggest TV networks. So it really broke a lot of stereotype to have a woman be the main host of a travel show, adventure travel show, not, for example, a cooking show. No, an adventure travel show. And it was an honor to be able to be the first woman to do that in Saudi Arabia. It's really cool. I had a blast. I had so much fun.
And also the fact that Saudi Arabia has such amazing sites to visit.
Incredible.
Tell us some of the sites in the country, the places.
I'm ashamed to say that it took me to be part of the show to realize the amount of natural topographic beauty Saudi has. I'm ashamed. I didn't realize that we had this. But oh my God, we have a beautiful country. Incredible culture, incredible history, locations, fantastic natural beauty that are untapped. Here's the thing that makes it even more special. It's an untapped jewel. So lots of the locations have not been climbed, in terms of mountaineering. Lots of the dive sites have not been climbed. Really amazing, really incredible.
Raha, you are a living proof that if children are allowed to be confident and to be curious, then they make very interesting adults. How important do you think is to keep youth engaged in conversations, in projects, encouraging their creativity and out of the box thinking?
Critical. It's critical to allow children to hold on to their curiosity and passions and love of life. We tend to lose this spark in our eyes when it comes to adventures. Teens, early 20s, we tend to lose this passion. We tend to demystify things. So it's really important to continue to let children have that. And I will forever be a curious child at heart. I will forever want to try new things. I will forever want to go and explore, because I believe my family fed that. My family helped raise and help me hold on to this. So a lot of children lose it because they're told that there are these specific jobs that they can fit in, and that's it. Nothing else is important.
But our societies, I think now more than ever, are going to be in need of creativity and out of the box thinking. Also, when it comes to solutions, that COVID-19 crisis, which has wiped out in many ways 2020 at
Exactly.
the time. Yeah, it is drawing our attention, everyone's attention, to the necessity of being more innovative, more collaborative, and allowing the younger generation to be part of the solutions for the future.
And it's expanding what a job spectrum is. There's a lot of online jobs, there's a lot of creative. It's become more diverse in what is an acceptable job, a means to a living. It's changed over the years. It's become more and more fluid and more. Do you know what I mean? It flows now.
Yes, yes, I hear you. And I think that the online world, with all the vices that comes along, at the same time, it creates immense opportunities for people to utilize their talents, their studies, to learn, build new skills. So there are huge opportunities here. Now, tell me, what about you? Is space next?
I'm so happy my mom she listens to these things not live. She listens later, because every time I mention what I want to do next, the poor woman's like, this girl. Every time I want to,
I can
yes,
empathize with her, although
no,
I encourage
my mom, poor mom. I always say that there's a place in heaven for my parents because I put them through the ringer. Yes, I've always dreamt of going to space. How? When? I don't know. But I believe that I'm going to try as much as I can to find a way to end up in space, because it's the final frontier. Like, it's the last thing humans, like, space and the deep ocean. So yeah, I've always had this passion to want to discover what space is. And I think there's a lot of, there's more options now and more options that are happening by the day, new projects, constant new projects and constant new ways of going to space. So I might be able to find the way, but at least I'll try. So yeah, I always put it out there in the universe that I can hopefully get to space.
Well, I have no doubt that if you set your mind towards something, you make it happen.
Maybe I'll try my best to try, and at least I try. I believe in trying. You never know.
And I also love the idea, the deep ocean idea. That is also fascinating.
Yeah, that's awesome as well. But you never know. You never know what life has for you.
Absolutely true. Well, anything else that you would like to add? Is there a message to the younger generation? You're very young, but you've done a lot. So
actually, I see myself as the older generation, because here's how I see women in the region, right? I see that my mother's generation are the ones that knocked on the door, right? They're the ones that started this whole movement of women's activity and women's place in they started it. And then my generation is the one that has opened the door. because we shattered all the stereotypes. We shattered all of the rules and regulations. And then the generation that comes after me are the ones that go through the door. They are the ones that need to make it a reality. Do you know what I mean? This is how I see us as evolution of women in the region. So I always tell people that ask me for advice, I always tell them to use their voices. If you dream of something, I know it sounds corny, but if you dream of something, then it should not be just a dream. It should be a goal and a passion, because you never know how you get there. I'm a Saudi woman that managed to live my dream of climbing the highest summits in the world. And I come from Saudi Arabia, and I refuse to let anyone tell me otherwise. I refuse anyone to tell me that I cannot do this or I cannot do that, because how can you tell me I can't do this when I managed to stand on top of the world? How can you have the audacity to tell me that I can't when I actually did? So I always tell young girls and guys as well to dream big, live big, to accept the failures in life as lessons, because that's just part of life. You need to learn, you need to get up again. And to never let anyone tell you what you can and cannot do, to never let anyone force you or put you down or let you feel any less capable than you are.
Or determine your life for you.
Oh, yeah, or to dictate what kind of woman or man you should be, or to dictate what it means to be happy. This is something that I actually would like to mention, that when a lot of people ask me, what do you want to be in 5 years? I tell them happy. This is something that people, they take for granted. They don't really see it. They think that if they have the dream job, if they have this, then they are happy. But it's not true. Happiness is something that is contentment. It comes within you. It's not something that just suddenly shows up. You have to work for it.
Do you feel that this is something that you reached? Is it a destination that you, or rather a summit which you conquered and is now with you forever?
I think the biggest mountain I'll ever climb is my whole life trying to be truly who I am and content. And it's not easy. It's not easy for you to be content. I don't have everything I want in life, but I'm content with what I have. And that takes time. That takes a mental choice to live happy and live positive. A lot of people don't realize that. A lot of people don't see that. They don't see it. They think things just go. So no, I'm in a constant, I think, journey to get to where I want, which is to reach my dreams, to live happy, to make my family happy and my country proud, and to live an honest, happy life. I think it's a conscious, constant choice. It's not something that just happens overnight. So a lot of people take that for granted. They think that happiness is something that is a given and it comes with when you have X, Y, and Z, but it's not. It's an inner choice and an inner belief and a desire to live that life.
I couldn't agree more. And I would like, on that note, to thank you, Raha, for a wonderful conversation.
My pleasure.
I wish you the best, and I keep following, whatever you do. And I look forward to
thank you so much for the opportunity.
About, the next achievement, to the next goal, whatever that may be.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for listening to the Athena 40 podcast, Conversations with Women from the MENA region, brought to you in partnership with NAMA Women Advancement Establishment. If you want to get in touch with us, please email us on info@athena40.org. That is info@athena40.org. For NAMA's work, please visit www.namawomen.ae. Keep well, stay inspired and motivated.